Fellow South Africans, I want to play you a video from the Minister of Correctional Services. Something that he says there. In fact, he says a couple of things, but there's this one thing that left me shaking my head, going, no, 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 no. But I understand. I understand why this element is missing. So without further ado, please tell me what element, as you are listening, is missing in this video. Well, it does get mentioned, but in passing. Here we go.
The latest statistics as of the 14th of this month, of July, we have just over 28,000 foreigners. Now that includes remand detainees as well as sentenced foreigners. And it's about half-half. 14,000 remand detainees and say 14,000 sentenced foreigners. Now, I said when I became the minister also that I want to send them back to their country of origin. Now, the good news is that just on Friday, I signed a memorandum of understanding with Namibia for interstate transfer of prisoners, offenders. We will send the Namibians from us to them and South Africans from them to us. This is the second MOU. We also, about in May this month, I also concluded a memorandum of agreement with Botswana. In the pipeline now, the next priority is with Zimbabwe.
No, that's the big fish. Eh?
That's a big fish. I mean, if you look at the foreign inmates, Zimbabwe is at the top. There are about, if you take sentence offenders, about 4,500 Zimbabweans. And then you go to Mozambique, they're about 3,500 in our facilities. Then you go to Lesotho, they've just about 2,300. And then it's Malawi. Malawi, they have about 2,000 inmates. So if you can do that, then you can reduce it. But the aim is to get all the SADC countries at least. So many people think, for instance, that Nigeria, we have a lot of Nigerians. We don't. We have less than 300 of them.
So as of the 14th of July, 2026, my birthday, so the Correctional Services reports that we have moved from having 22,000 foreign prisoners in our prison system to 28,000. But they are not all of them serving sentences, like they're found guilty and now they are serving sentence terms. 14,000 of them are remanded. That means they are still attending trials. They are still also even as far as the magisterial level. And then you have those that are convicted. They make 14,000. And so this is a problem to South Africa. So that means we moved from 11.2 million rand a day in feeding foreign nationals in our prisons to almost double that. And the Minister of Correctional Services, Peter Groenewald, is like, I want them gone. I want them back to the countries of origins so that they can continue serving their sentences there. But there needs to be agreements between South Africa and those countries. It looks like Namibia and Botswana may have had some kind of agreement with South Africa. But to me, it sounds like exchange of prisoners. So now the question, and now I'm not saying there are no South Africans that are incarcerated elsewhere on the African continent. And if they committed crimes there, they deserve to be in prison. They deserve the sentences that they are serving. We are not going to be defending people that go and embarrass our country. So it sounds to me like it's some kind of exchange of prison program that we are going to send your prisoners, you bring us our prisoners in your prisons to us. But the numbers, I don't think they equal, whatever the case might be. And I don't think we have many Namibians in our prisons, let alone Botswana in our prisons either. And then the mothership, Zimbabwe. Zimbabwe have over 4,000 prisoners in our prisons. It's not a surprise. And I think it's more than that because you must remember, some of these Zimbabweans have acquired South African passports or South African citizenship through corruption. So they will be considered because the correction service is not Home Affairs, which I think Home Affairs now needs to get involved every time a prisoner is sentenced so that they get the data correct by verifying that indeed this prisoner is a South African or not, so that when we do prison exchange or we do deport a prisoner to their country's prison, we need to ensure that we are sending a Zimbabwean or a Namibian or a Mtswana back home because the papers, because they reduce our country into papers. I'm not talking about Botswana and Namibians. You know who I'm talking about. So just to make sure that indeed they're Botswana or they are Namibian, despite them claiming to be South Africans. So that means even South African citizens must be subjected to the tests, running their biometrics to make sure that indeed this is a South African type of situation. I don't know. That's my thought on that one. Now, there were a list of countries, of prisoners that are in our prisons. But there's this one country that was missing. And there's no way that country there's no way that they have 300 prisoners in our prisons. But anyways, it might be possible that there are 300. But ask yourself this question. Why they are not amongst the lists of countries that are in our prisons? Any guess? Yeah, you're right. I think every South African knows this, that Nigerians and South African police don't do their work. And they know that Nigerians commit heinous crimes in our country, starting with selling white powder. We have seen vans of the police parked at a hotspot for drug trafficking and selling of drugs, where it's full of Nigerians. What do you think they're doing there? Yes, you are right. Collecting protection fee. If you're a South African, I've done this several times before, to complain about Nigerians that are selling drugs in our community. Instead of you being taken serious and as a concerned citizen, they turn you into the criminal. They put handcuffs on you, the complainant. Because how dare you come and complain about Nigerians selling drugs in your community? Like I said, I've experienced that. So it makes perfect sense why Nigerians will not be on the list. You see the 300 that was mentioned? They were arrested because they're rivals. Yeah, territory rivalry. They got the police as a weapon to get rid of the competition by arresting the ones that are counted. They're saying 300 and whatever not in our prisons. I'm not laughing. I'm angry. And when I am angry, I try to regulate by laughing. So, yeah, it exposes the police. It's an indictment on the South African Police Service that why don't we have Nigerians as maybe second after Zimbabwe, where I would assume they'll be first, then Zimbabweans. Why not? Is this picture not, how is it making sense to government? And I don't blame the Minister of Correctional Services for not questioning this. He might not be aware because he lives in an ivory tower. I mean, his kids are protected, grandchildren, great-grandchildren are protected from these Nigerians. So he would know. But what about the people that look like you and me who have probably lived where we come from? Why aren't they questioning the South African police service about this discrepancy? It makes no sense. It makes absolute no sense. And lastly, if we had to do a prison exchange with Nigeria, how many South Africans are in Nigerian prisons and for what reason? Because every South African that is in Nigeria is legal, number one. Number two, they are professionals. Number three, they abide by the laws of Nigeria because they are law abiding citizens of South Africa to begin with. This is interesting. And I am going to be observing where are we headed with this one? Because it makes perfect no sense. Yeah, I did that deliberately. Not to make sense because all of this doesn't make sense. Okay, I get with the Zimbabweans and Mozambicans and all the other ones that were mentioned. It's not a surprise. They should be on the list. And yes, they need to get out of our prisons so that the money we are spending on them goes and does things that they're supposed to do to serve the people of South Africa. Now, speaking about crime and why foreign nationals are not afraid of our laws in this country. Why is it that Africans wouldn't dare commit a crime in Botswana? Botswana, I think, is probably the third, if not the fourth smallest country on the African continent. I mean, the population is almost the size of Soweto. And yet, that country, you wouldn't dare commit crimes. Why? And there is a debate that somebody's trying to bring up the death penalty. And she is making a mockery of how do is it, I don't think it's a mockery. It's more like regurgitation. She's regurgitating the Western findings of the death penalty. But when it comes to the death penalty in Africa, nobody has done a study on that, except for the South African death penalty. And the reason why we no longer have it, I think it is because of S versus S versus Mokonyan, I think 1995. That's what abolished the death penalty in South Africa. And why? Because it was used as a tool to deal with politics and politicians. Now, if you go into Africa, Botswana, Nigeria, many African countries where their rule of law, the death penalty exists as a means of punishment if you are found guilty. And if you look at these countries, crime, I'm talking heinous crimes of murder, forcing oneself on a woman, they don't exist. Why? Because the death penalty is hoovering everybody. Now, South Africa is a constitutional democracy, yes. And Section 11 of the Constitution, right to life, protects all lives, including a person that just unalived an entire family for no reason. He has a right to life. So you can't unalive him. If you do, you are a murderer in South Africa. Oh, and they will add a cherry on top. Section 10 of the Constitution, right to dignity. They will say the death penalty is a cruel and inhumane punishment that infringes on the human dignity of the person. We're talking about a person that just wiped out an entire family, from the baby to the grandmother. Remember in KwaZulu Natal, not so long ago, this year alone? No, they have human dignity. And they also have a right to life. But those that they unalived in the most inhumane and indignified way. Oh, we don't care about that. No, they're gone. So the question, or probably my angle, is we tend to regurgitate the Western world death penalty findings that they never work and they socially did this and they socially do that. And we are talking about a Western world where mental health is an excuse and then you walk free because today this 18-year-old boy who took a bazooka to school and blew up the entire school, he had a mood swing that morning. And that's enough for him to walk free. Not the death penalty, because it's not going to correct anything. But what about the African perspective of the death penalty? Because the African perspective of the death penalty is a result of why criminals are afraid. I'm talking Nigerians, afraid to sell white powder in Botswana, in their own country of Nigeria, because the death penalty exists there. So, the point I'm making, we would not have foreign nationals filling up our prisons if we had the death penalty. Whether we use it or we use it as a tool to scare people off, whatever the case might be, I don't think we in the 21st century will be using it for any other reason. I don't think so. Unless you are telling me you don't know South Africans. Anyways, let me leave this video here. Thank you so much for listening, and please continue enjoying the rest of your Saturday evening. Goodbye.